I hope you are hearing me. मुझको खबर कोई आवाज बुधन का हे माउथ Okay. Okay. Okay, we are going to open a new chapter. Although I think last time we did start it, but because it's a long time, 2-3 months ago. So when we met in the lecture hall, I told you that we are going to start a new chapter of maternal and child health. I can't have a two-way interaction at the moment in a full blow. So I hope that you are following me. You see, mother and child health. It's an important component of the community medicine. It's the important component of our community, of our population, of our country. Now, there are few things which I would like to tell you before that, for example, why we are going to consider the M.C.H in community medicine, number one. Number two, why we are going to consider the mother and child health all together, right? And then we will go on describing what comes under the chapter of mother and child health, what we have to elaborate in the chapter of mother and child health. At the moment you are just you're going to see this one M.C.H, you see the photograph. Now let me start with this M.C.H, mother and child health. What are the reasons of study? As I already said, that what are the reasons to study them all together, mother and child. Although you haven't gone through the chapter of demography, but you all know the situation of our country. You see, different countries of the world have different sort of populations. For example, maybe in Italy, maybe in the Japan, maybe in the Germany, maybe in the States, the population comprises of maybe 20 to 30% population, maybe of over 65, over 70. But you see, the population, percentage of the population of our country, of Pakistan, comprises of what? Comprises of more than 37% of population comprises of under 14 years, right? More than about 37% of population in our country comprises of under 14 years.
No, 11.
Okay.
Slide 11.
Only, I think, less than 5% population comprises of over 65%. But keeping in view, as I said, mother and child. Now the children, who are the children? On one hand, some people say that children are under 5 years, but you see the children are under 14 years. Now, if you are going to consider the below 14 years of age population, and if you keep in mind, just have a guess that that sort of population group is about 37, 36%. Okay, then what is the population of childbearing age woman? We used to say in the chapter of M.C.H. CBA, childbearing age woman, this percent of population is not less than 25%, right? Now, if you are going to add up the 37% below 14 years, that is on one hand, on one part, the children. And if you are going to aid it with what? With that 25% of childbearing age woman, this comprises of how much? 37 plus 25. I'm not good in the mathematics, but you can very well, you see, imagine and understand that makes more than 50% or 60% of our, yes, please, Amna, yes, tell me, what do you want to say? Kiran, hey, someone raised three raised hands. Acha. Okay. You can have your questions in the last. If you are hearing me, if you are hearing a good voice, you can ask your question. You can write down your question and ask in the last. You can ask at the end of the last 10 minutes. We have plenty of time. No worries. Okay. So I was going through that percentage of the population, more than 60% of population comprises of what? Below 14 and childbearing age women. So what? So they are the they are the major consumers of the health. Okay. Then on, yes, one more thing is that percent of population is vulnerable. But I just said that below 14 years of population on one hand, children and childbearing age women, they are what? Vulnerable. That I'm going to tell you the reasons why we are going to study the M.C.H. and why we are going to study the M.C.H. altogether, right? So why they are vulnerable? How they are vulnerable? You see, the childbearing is a big process. This is not a, you see, usual process, although physiological. That is not pathological by no means. This is physiological process. But you see, the child bearing itself, when a mother goes through the delivery, that is a crucial time for her in the life. So that is why we used to call them the vulnerable groups. All those women who are in a CBA group, in the childbearing age group, right? And on the other, you see the children, you see they have the problems of what? Survival, growth, and development. Survival, growth, and development. They have to survive. And the most crucial period of their survival is 0 to 1 year. When they are born and when they celebrate their first birthday, and that is why you see all the infant mortality is labeled under the heading of what? Under the heading of the death of the infants below 1 year. Why? Because in this age group they are highly vulnerable, highly sensitive percentage of population. When I say highly vulnerable, when I say highly sensitive, what do I mean? I mean that they have higher chances of the mortality. And you know very well what is the mortality, death, right? They have a very high chances of the death, of dying below 1 year. So I said, number one, the more than 50, 55, or say 60% of the population is what? This comprises of children and mothers, M.C.H, right? Second point I did raise that they are what? They are vulnerable groups. It means they should be given an extra care. On the one hand, to all those ladies who are going under the process of the delivery, and on the other, the children, which I said they have problems of what? Survival, growth, and development. The third point in the M.C.H is, you see, say 50% of the deaths. You see, different countries have different reasons of mortality. For example, in America or Italy or Germany or Japan or China, all those, what can one say, developed country has what they have the death rate in the portion of population which is over 70, because they are old people, just like you see in this corona age period. So many people are raising the question that why so many people died in the Italy. Why? Because all those countries have a more age group in the 70 plus. And this age group is in higher age group, 70 plus, they have low resistance, they have low immunity, and that is why what happens, the more chances of the death. What I'm trying to elaborate at this moment is that more than 50% of deaths in developing countries is caused in the age group of over 60, over 70. But highly unfortunately, the same proportion, the same percentage of the deaths, I say more than 50%, or almost equal to the 50%, the reason of death in our countries, in developing countries, not developed, developing countries, the reason of the death is what? Communicable diseases, maternal mortality, infectious diseases in infants, in children. Why? Because we are still lagging behind. Why? Because we have not developed our health systems, and we have a high demand to go through this mother and child health, to explore the reasons and to sort out all those factors which comes under the, you see, the problems in the mother and child health, right? So you got enough material to, you see, the initial to go through the M.C.H, that percentage of population more than 50%. These are vulnerable groups. The percentage of death in the developing countries and developed countries, they have high percentage of death in the over 70. The same percent of people die here in the young age, in the you see, childbearing process. And one more thing is that fortunately or unfortunately, the reasons of deaths in developing countries, they are highly preventable. I repeat, what? The proportion of deaths, as I already said, 50% of the population or 50% of the reasons of death in our developing countries, which falls in the mothers of childbearing age as well as, you see, the children, these reasons are highly preventable. And that is why we have to give more and more emphasis to the mother and child. Okay, proceeding ahead, maternal mortality rate. You see, always remember MMR, this abbreviation. This abbreviation can lead you into three directions. Like, just at the moment, I'm going to say that maternal mortality rate. MMR means what? Maternal mortality rate. But when we come into the vaccination, the MMR means mumps, measles, and rubella. Right? This is something, you see, interesting, that this abbreviation, as I just said, can lead you into three directions: maternal mortality rate, mumps, measles, rubella, and third one is mass miniature radiography. Mass miniature radiography, you will inshallah study under the communicable diseases. And this is one of the case finding tool, or in simple words, diagnostic tool of what? Diagnosis of the tuberculosis. But we are not concerned about, we are not, yes, two participants. Okay, okay, I'm coming to you, I'm coming to you, don't worry, baby. So I was saying that at the moment, maternal mortality rate in developing and developed countries have a cross huge differences. For example, in some countries, or one can say in developed countries, the maternal mortality rate is what? 12 per 100,000. I repeat, 12 per 100,000. 10 per 100,000. 100,000 means 1 lakh. 8 per 100,000. But unfortunately, in our country, we have previously we were having the maternity mortality of uh, 300 per 100,000, 200 per 100,000. Now I have gone through the different sources again and again on the internet, on the textbooks, and I am going to find one figure, that is what? Maternal mortality in our country, 178 per 100,000, right? 178 per 100,000. So that was the point, that maternal mortality rate has a huge and marked differences between, you see, the developed and developing countries. Okay. And one more thing is that all those reasons, I mean, all those reasons which contribute towards maternal mortality. There is anemia. We will come to those reasons, and you see, forthcoming lectures. We'll go through it thoroughly. There are the different reasons of the maternal mortality: the anemia, the toxemia, the malnutrition. You see the different sorts of antenatal care. The point is, these are preventable. Again, you see, all those reasons we can prevent them, but unfortunately, because we cannot prevent them in our countries, and that is the reason the maternal mortality in our country is high and very high. Okay. Now, second point is that, as I said, the chapter which we are going to go through is what? M.C.H, right? Mother and child health. Now, someone can, you see, ask a question that why mother and child is considered as one unit? Why not separate? Why not mother separate and child separate? And there are different reasons why we used to study them all together. That mother and child, they are one unit. They are one unit. So we cannot separate mother from the child, or we cannot separate the child from mother. Fetus, you know, the fetus for 280 days. 280 days is the complete period in which the fetus is the part of mother. Fetus gets all its nutrition, all its nourishment, all its oxygen through the blood of the mother, through what? Through placental cord, right? So fetus is the part of mother for about 280 days. And as I just said, that throughout this period, the fetus gets all its survival, blood, oxygen, nourishment, right? From whom? From mother. Relation of mother's health with child health. It is a common saying that a malnourished woman will give birth to a malnourished child. It is simple as that. If a mother is having not a good nutrition, of course, her child, when the child will be born, that child will be of low birth weight. If the mother has anemia, her child may be born with the low birth weight. If the mother has, you see, any sort of disease, particularly what, for example, I can say the disease of, you see, rubella, 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 or German measles. You see, the mothers who suffer from the German measles, particularly in the first trimester, the children who are born to those mothers, they suffer from a CRS, congenital rubella syndrome, right? And in this congenital rubella syndrome, the fetus, the children who are born, they are born with congenital defects. Mostly those defects contribute towards the congenital heart defects, or you see eyes, blinds. But there are also some other things. For example, if a mother is suffering from syphilis, if a mother gets a drug which doesn't suit to the fetus, right? There are so many conditions of the mothers. For example, those you see cytomegalovirus and toxoplasmy gondii, those herpes. I I don't remember the word which is being labeled as, but those, what I want to say at the moment, that those all conditions suffering with which the mother is suffering, that will affect the, you see, the child. One more thing is that, you see, if a mother dies when the child is in a very young age, you see, the point is relation of mother's health with the child health. If a mother dies at a very young age, when the child is, you see, very in a very young age group, the child in his or her late life suffer from MDS, maternal deprivation syndrome. You can very well estimate that is how the, you see, the mother's health is closely related with the child health, and you can very well estimate that how much conditions, how many conditions, as I said, how many drugs, if wrongly taken in the period of the antenatal period, can affect the children. Okay. Effects of mother's disease over child health. Okay, I told you that there are so many diseases which, you see, so many diseases, so many infectious diseases. For example, if the mother is suffering from the hepatitis B, that the child might suffer from that. This sort of transmission is known as what? Vertical transmission. If the mother is suffering from the AIDS, her child will be suffering from the AIDS, vertical transmission, right? So even in this world, you see, there are so many questions that if a mother is going to secrete the virus in the breast milk, so should she breastfeed her child? But that is a separate subject. But at the moment, I'm going to tell you that these are all the questions which come across. But the point is at the moment that there are so many conditions or diseases of the mother which do affect the children. And again, you can see what is the headline. The headline is why we are considering the mother and child one. Okay. Child is dependent on the mother. Of course, child is dependent on the mother for, on the one hand, for 9 months or 20 days, and then on child is on the breastfeed. Of course, and obviously, when the child is on the breastfeed, the child is completely dependent on the mother. Now, some women feed their babies for about 6 months, some feed their babies for about 1 year, some feed their babies for about 2 years, right? Because breastfeeding, there is no substitute to the breast milk. No formula, no other milk can be a substitute or complete substitute to the breast milk. So, child is dependent on the mother. Mother is the first teacher of the child. This is a very common proverb, right? माँ बच्चे की पहली दर्शगा. The mother is the first teacher of the child. Now, these were what? These were the few points which I told you that why mother and child are considered as one unit. Okay, let us go through some terms. Obstetrics is what we are going to deal with preventive obstetrics. Remember, we are not going to deal with clinical obstetrics, but we are the people of preventive side. We are the people of basic side, and we are going to deal with what preventive. If we go through the cave or your textbook of community medicine, you will see what you will see the preventive obstetrics. Obstetrics means the aim of obstetrics is at the end of pregnancy, we must be able to achieve a healthy mother and healthy baby, right? This is the obstetrics. And inshallah, when you will go through your gynae obs, you know these are two different entities. One is the gynae, which is the diseases of the woman, and one is the obstetrics. Obstetrics deal with the care of baby along with care of mother. Social obstetrics. You see, sometimes examiner do ask. I remember we had a very kind and senior examiner. Unfortunately, he is no more in this world. He used to ask, you see, very frequently from the students in the Viva voice, what is social obstetrics? Social obstetrics is actually the interplay of social and environmental factors, right? Interplay of social and environmental factors with the woman health, which affects the woman in any way. For example, as you must be watching those factors that age at marriage. Unfortunately, we have a custom and tradition of having, you see, the age, early age at marriage in our rural side, at our countryside. So many girls, they got married at very early age, and though this is not good for their health because they cannot bear the burden of the pregnancy. Right? Maybe this is physiological process, but they cannot bear the weight of the pregnancy at a very early age. So one of the social, as I said, social objectives is what? Interplay of social and environmental factors which affects the health of the woman, and that may go to the preconception or premarital period. Social factors. What are those social factors? Different social factors, as I already said, age at marriage, child spacing. You can term it family planning, child spacing. What is the family size? Level of education. You see, literacy level and economy level affects a lot. A woman who is literate, a woman who is, you see, having this has a inverse relationship, or sorry, it's a direct relationship with the health of the woman. If a woman has the high level of health, she might understand the points of health more comprehensive. Economic status, customs and beliefs. Now you may be wondering that how customs and belief do affect you see the woman health. You see, in our country, for example, there are so many people who used to take very less care of the woman. There are so many people who used to give the feed the meals after they finish. Whatever the leftover is given to the woman. This is a custom. This is a you see tradition. What happens? What is the hazard? Hazard is that the woman gets malnourished. So at the okay, what I mean to say is this is the what this is the social reasons leading to bad health of the woman and termed as social obstacles. Okay, going ahead. Pediatrics. You are familiar with this word, pediatrics. Pediatrics is what? Pediatrics is the this is the branch of medical science which deals with care of children from conception up to the adolescence. I repeat, pediatrics is that branch of medical science which deals with care of children from conception. You see, conception up to adolescence. You know very well the word adolescence up to 16, 70 years in health and disease, right? Branch of medical science dealing with the health of children from conception up to adolescence in health and disease. Now, pediatrics is, one can say that we can go into two directions. We can go into the antenatal pediatrics, right? Antenatal pediatrics means when the child is part of mother, when the child is in the vitro, a child is inside the womb of the mother, this is known as antenatal pediatrics. Why? Because there are so many conditions which are preventable and at that point they can be addressed. Number two is postnatal pediatrics, which is usually common. Usually common means that is the once a child is born, when the baby is born, then this comes into action that postnatal pediatrics and all those you see the children which are dealt, they are dealt under this heading of this postnatal pediatrics. When I say preventive pediatrics, there are so many ways. I mean, what I want to say that there are so many examples which comes under the heading of preventive pediatrics. Like ORS is a preventive pediatrics. A child gets dehydrated, child gets diarrhea, and then on we used to give the baby the ORS that is preventing his dehydration. Immunization is, I say, the best of the example of the preventive pediatrics. If you are going to give the BCG injection, BCG vaccination to a child, you are going to prevent the child from what? From, you see, the tuberculosis. If you are going to give the child the vaccination of measles, you are going to prevent the child from measles. Similarly, immunization, a specific immunization, this is what? This is, I'm telling you, this is the example of immunization, and immunization is the example of preventive pediatrics. So many developed cities, even in Pakistan, so many developed countries, you see the partners of their preventive pediatrics in the pediatric departments in their hospitals. Breastfeeding prevents the children from so many diseases. Nutritional surveillance, regular checkups, these are all what these are all the examples of preventive pediatrics. And already I said that antenatal pediatrics means that when the child is in the womb of mother, and postnatal when the child is born. MMR going through those terms which will come across in the whole chapter when we will go through the chapter of mother and child health. These terms we will frequently come across. MMR is the maternal mortality rate. IMR is the infant mortality rate. PMR is the perinatal mortality rate. Perinatal mortality means late fetal, early neonatal. Don't worry, I will explain those terms when inshallah it will come to that point, perinatal mortality. CMR, child mortality rate. Now, this is you must be watching on your screens, whatever you are using, laptops, mobiles, whatever the trend is going on. I'm sure so many of you must be holding your mobiles on your hands. This is what this is. I'm going to show you that though all those sub areas of M.C.H are, I'm going to say that all those topics, simply all those topics which we have to cover in the maternal and child health. We have to cover the maternal health, in which we will go through the antenatal care, intranatal care, postnatal care. We will go through the child health. We will inshallah start from the health of the neonate, early care, late care. Then we will go to the infant mortality. Then family planning is some separate thing, but we will consider it at a later stage. In this chapter, we will also cover the school health. We will cover the handicapped children. We will cover the health of the adolescents. We will cover the growth and development of the children. We will cover the children in special settings. We will come to those settings. We will cover the juvenile delinquency or the crime in the adolescence age. So these all topics, inshallah, we'll be covering. This is labeled under the heading of sub areas. Now, because you see, because inshallah, in the next class, I will be starting with antenatal care. At the moment, this term, you may come across this term in MCQ. You may come across this term in you see your theory examination. Then what do you mean by maternity cycle? What is a maternity cycle? Maternity cycle means there are 5 processes which comes under the heading of maternity cycle. One is the fertilization. Fertilization of the ovum, which takes place in the outer part of the fallopian tube. But then on, the child becomes zygote. The first point in the maternity cycle is fertilization, followed by antenatal period, followed by intranatal period. Antenatal means before the birth of baby. Intranatal means actual delivery process when the baby is going to be born or delivered. Postnatal means when the baby is born, baby is out of the womb of the mother. Then we have to take care of both mother and baby in that postnatal period. And the 5th point in the maternity cycle is known as interconceptional period. Right? This is what this is combinedly labeled and known, titled as what is maternity cycle. Fertilization, antenatal period, intranatal period, postnatal period, and interconceptional period. You can see ovum. Your internet connection is unstable. चलो फिर हट जी So ovum is up to 14 days, embryo is 14 days to 9 weeks, fetus up to 9th week to birth, premature infant, and then birth. This is the last slide of today's session. That what are the main problems in the M.C.H? Malnutrition, highly common problem of our country is malnutrition. Always remember that malnutrition leads to infection. Why? Because when you don't get a good quality diet, your antibodies, your immune system, which is dependent on the protein, which is dependent on the good high class diet, it becomes weakened. When it becomes weakened, what happens? There is the chances of infection. And when there is an infection, what happens? There is a loss of appetite. And there is a loss of appetite, it leads to malnutrition. This is known as vicious circle. Malnutrition leads to infection, infection leading to malnutrition. Now, the third problem in the you see the M.C.H is called uncontrolled reproduction. Malnutrition, infection, uncontrolled reproduction. So today we are going to end the session. I am going to invite what you are raising your hands. And next time, before I conclude, I must tell you that next time, inshallah, we'll be talking about you see the antenatal care. And I have distributed this chapter because this is not your you see the semester system. That is why we are going to get along with one chapter continuously. So inshallah, the person who will be following me will be sharing this same M.C.H. Okay, now you can have what you want to say. Achha. If you can hear me, you can raise your question. You can come out. Yes. Okay, in chat. Okay, you can go through in your chat, please. Raise your questions in your chats. We can't hear you. How can I record this lecture? I don't know how can you record this lecture. We will upload it. If you are hearing me, 7 new messages. Sir, repeat obstetrics. Obstetrics is you see the preventive medicine. Intranatal period. Okay. Just a minute. I am coming to your question. You have hope this question. Thank you, sir. Zainab, sir, can you explain intranatal? Intranatal period, when you say antenatal period, you have asked, one of you have asked that what is, you see the intranatal period. Anti means before, natal means birth. Intra means at that period when the baby is delivered, right? When the baby, you can say labor. This is intranatal period. Another question is raised that, sir, can you define perinatal mortality? Okay, I can define the perinatal mortality. Perinatal mortality is late fetal. That means after 28th week of pregnancy and before 7 days after birth. Late fetal, early neonatal. That is perinatal mortality. Now, if you are hearing me, you can give me the feedback. That did you get a complete and answer and you got me? Obstetrics. I got the perinatal period. I repeated. Thank you, sir. The class. Okay. Later on, even you can send me if you have further queries. You can send me your questions. Everyone got it. Right. Thank you. You can send your questions on that WhatsApp group. इनके मिलेगा ना खबर. I hope you all have got your WhatsApp group, so you can send your questions on WhatsApp group. If you have some question, right? Attendance, अच्छा. Now it's अच्छा. ना मतलब ये मतलब ये मां के रिपीट करो पहले. अच्छा. रिकॉर्ड थी. ठीक ठीक ठीक. बस ये सही है, ये सही है. हाँ 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 हाँ. ओके यार मैं थोड़ा पानी पानी कोई पानी पेन.
ada saya pen video sir ke cerebral ke pen video
क्वेश्चन बना ग्रुप के अच्छे ना अगर पूछना हो बस बस सही है. मतलब वो जो ग्रुप ठहला वो कम्युनिकेशन जो वे समझो थी बस बस वही समझिए. वो माउस ने बिला वो टच सिस्टम ने खराब है वो डिसेबल है.